Hey everyone, this is SFL Live, so welcome to our little show where SFLers get to tell you what's on their mind. So I have bios for all of our SFLers here, and I'll tell you a little bit about each of them. So next to me right now is Kelly V, former campus coordinator. She's an anarchist, feminist, individualist, atheist, corporate sellout who's in love with her best friend and occasionally runs for fun. She discovered the ideas of liberty through reading Atlas Shrugged in 11th grade. And she's a big fan of Ayn Rand. And also now she describes her views as Ayn Rand meets Emma Goldman. She also studies at Tulane University, where she is majoring in accounting and finance. I also have with me Marisa Salazar, who is a current executive board member. What exactly is your role with SFL? Where are you the board member for, Marisa?
I'm the events director for the West Coast. Did you get that?
Are they frozen?
Oh, can anyone hear me?
Yeah.
There we go.
I've lost connection there. Okay, sorry about that, everyone. So I don't know the last thing you all heard. I'll go back to reintroducing Marisa Salazar. So Marisa is an undergraduate student at NMSU, majoring in kinesiology. She currently serves as the president of the NMSU YAL chapter, the West Coast Events Director for SFL, and the state chair in New Mexico for YAL, Young Americans for Liberty. She also works part-time as a communications director for Goal Advocacy, a free market nonprofit in New Mexico. So she's up to a lot of stuff. And then last but not least, we have Sam Dunkovich, who is the only SFL campus coordinator in Wisconsin. He's also runs a YAL chapter there at the University of Wisconsin-Green Bay, and he studies political science with a minor in communication, and he identifies as a market anarchist. So welcome, everyone, to SFL Live. For those of you who don't know, SFL is Students for Liberty, of course. We're an international nonprofit where we give out resources and supplies to college students across the globe to empower them and talk about liberty on their campuses, especially the ideas of freedom. So tonight, our topic is sort of current events based, but it's also based on a new SFL program that we're doing. It's called Not Just a Gun Activism Grants. So I'll tell you a little bit about that. The right to bear arms is often derided as antiquated and dangerous in modern politics. Like clockwork, pundits and politicians call for stricter gun control in the wake of mass shootings without the slightest consideration of unintended consequences. This knee-jerk reaction poisons political discourse and prevents meaningful conversation about how to balance safety and rights in a free society. If you watch the mainstream media, you would definitely notice this. It's absolutely absurd the way they talk about gun rights on the news. So, because of that, this fall, Students for Liberty wants to elevate the gun control debate by reminding the world that the issue at hand is not just a gun. Far from just a niche cause of rural conservatives and gun nuts, the right to bear arms is an important protection measure for many communities. For women, it's a defense against street harassment and rape. For LGBT people, it's a safeguard against deadly homophobic or transphobic attacks. For low-income individuals, it's a means of warding off criminals from the dangers that lurk in neighborhoods where calling the cops won't do much good. Sadly, none of these powerful benefits of gun rights are heard in today's toxic debate. That's precisely why Students for Liberty decided to focus our next activism grant on promoting reasoned and civil conversation about the right to bear arms. We'll be providing not just a gun grants to students who apply to the program throughout fall 2015 to support on-campus activities like gun safety training, empty holster protests, club trip to the range, speaker events, or any other related ideas. All of our students have a unique opportunity to remind the world of the philosophical importance of placing limits on the state's ability to restrict the right to bear arms and the vital role this right plays in our efforts to secure liberty everywhere. Your support will help us reach more campuses with this critical message about liberty and ownership. In a world where such values are rapidly disappearing in favor of comfort or convenience, this work can never be more important than now. So students, if you're here listening, watching this, and you want to promote the message of gun rights in a civil and reasonable way, you can take advantage of this grant and get free money and just to pay for your events, whatever you want to do on your campus, rather, with your club. So so I just want to talk a little bit about the activism grant. I know Sam had just today, right? You utilized the grant, did an event on your campus. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I didn't utilize the grant today, but we had a booth on gun rights because in Wisconsin right now there's a concealed carry on campus bill that's being a big hot topic. So we decided to do guns. Now it's like the same day that the grant came out, so I didn't sign up for it yet because we already ended like a week ago. Overall, it went pretty well. I mean, we got a lot of dirty looks. to be honest. And some of the professors left a 7-page blog about why guns are bad because they scare them all over our table after we left it. So I took all of them and I read it, and it was just like the most irrational thing ever. It was just about how they're scared of going to like places because guns are everywhere, and it's like more about them versus like safety in general. We also had people post Facebook comments about our group, which weren't very nice, but haters are gonna hate. But overall, it went pretty well.
Would you say the overall like kind of climate of ideas on your campus is like pro-gun or anti-gun, or is it maybe just not that simple, somewhere in between?
They're pretty pro-gun, but regarding college campuses and concealed carry, it's almost all like against it, except for our student government, which I'm involved in. We're talking about whether we're going to support it or be against it, and it's pretty split, which is surprising. But overall, the student body is not for it, and teachers are definitely against it.
Interesting. So can you tell us a bit more of what you did? You said you didn't take advantage of the grant today, of the money itself?
Yeah, we just had a giant...
Go ahead.
We got a giant poster in the shape of a gun, and it said, protect yourself, it's your right. And then we had little handouts about basically the things that SFL was talking about, like how it helps minorities and how it allows stop and frisk to take place and stuff like that.
Do you think that the reception of the event on your campus was better than it would have been otherwise if the rhetoric was kind of more, kind of conservative or coming from kind of rural conservative arguments for gun rights?
I feel like the conservative thing would have made it worse, just because overall we're kind of in the middle. We're kind of like a purplish campus. We're pretty conservative and liberal. So, and especially the guns, like we're pro like hunting and stuff, because Wisconsin, obviously, when we're talking about like concealed carry and stuff, they're not for it.
Right. Okay. Interesting. So that's awesome. I'm glad your event went well. Marisa, what about you? Have you utilized the grant yet? Do you plan on doing an event with it?
Yeah, we haven't utilized the grant yet. We're planning on taking advantage of that coming up, hopefully before Thanksgiving, just in mid-November. What we'd like to do is an event titled Strong Women Fight Back, where we focus on a female self-defense and gun safety training class. I think a lot of times students on campus are afraid of guns because they hear all these stories of gun accidents and gun tragedies, and it's important to realize that those are really scary. Those are a big deal, but it's also important to realize that it's our right to defend ourselves, and a lot of times we can stop these tragedies from occurring by being armed and being able to stop those at the source by being able to defend yourself and defending people around you. So we're planning on doing that, going out to a local gun range and having someone give everyone a safety training on how to properly use guns.
That's awesome. That sounds really interesting, really kind of empowering for the people, that join the event. So I'm going to ask you same thing as Sam. Do you think, like, the reception on your campus, do you think your campus is more pro-gun or anti-gun, or is it somewhere in the middle? Or what would you say?
We're lucky that our campus is actually a lot more pro-gun. We're in southern New Mexico, close to Texas. A lot of people here really love their guns. We actually held an NRA University event on our campus it was the beginning of September, actually. And we got about 80 people to attend the event. There was someone from the NRA talking about kind of the history of gun control and gun rights. It was a really informative event that people were really receptive to. We also typically do trips out to a local gun range at least once per semester for people just to go out and practice their Second Amendment rights. We usually get about 25 to 30 people to go out there. So we don't get much protesting against us, which is really nice. So I guess I think it'll be really successful there just because of that. We're also going to be working with the campus feminist group to promote our women's gun safety class.
So all of Kelly's daughters decided to join us. She has some strong opinions on gun rights. She's very pro-gun rights. So that's really interesting. That kind of brings up another interesting topic of potential alliances working with like local feminist club. Sam, do you have any kind of like clubs on campus that you may consider working with, or like a feminist club or some other kind of club, or is it just are you kind of a lone wolf on campus defending gun rights?
For guns, we're pretty alone, especially regarding the feminists and like Black Student Union and stuff. They're all very progressive, socialists, very not libertarian or pro-liberty in any sense. They overall just looked at our poster with like nasty looks, so no allies really there.
Interesting. Okay. So I'll go to Kelly now. Kelly is not a campus coordinator anymore, but as a student, she can certainly take advantage of the Not Just a Gun activism grants. I don't know if she'll be able to. I don't know what the reception on our campus would be like. But I did want to ask you, Kelly, just about you've written recently a number of things about, or I guess there's one thing really about gun control, really honing in on the debate and kind of challenging the normal line you hear in the media, like, oh, it's not a gun problem, it's a mental illness problem. We hear this a lot from kind of the right and like conservative arguments. Somehow it's not the, I mean, sure, it's not the gun's fault, and they kind of use mental illness as a scapegoat. So I wanted to ask you maybe to talk about that issue. It's kind of another example where the right just seem to have the wrong arguments for the right cause, and where maybe these other kinds of arguments might do some work in convincing people. So can you tell us a bit about your work on that?
Yeah, sure. The article I wrote was called Arm the Mentally Ill. It was published at Center for a Stateless Society. And basically the thesis of the article is that people with mental illnesses are much more vulnerable to domestic violence and other forms of violence than the mentally able or the neurotypical people. And so rather than taking guns away from the mentally ill, we need to be arming the mentally ill so that they are able to defend themselves. Also, the point was kind of to say that you can't pin these mass shootings on mental illness. For an example, the Aurora, Colorado theater shooting. People like to say, oh, that guy was insane. He dressed up as the Joker and he killed a bunch of people. He was obviously totally nuts. But in reality, he displayed very rational behavior. He planned out what he was doing ahead of time. This is not not someone with severe mental issues, because he's obviously able to plan and carry out
right, the shooting. He's able to
yeah.
have a detailed plan of what he's going to do.
Right, and so that type of behavior, I mean, I think it's really playing up in media and in movies that like crazy people are something to be afraid of, or people who think differently are threatening, and so I hate that argument that conservatives make. They a lot of times will say, "Oh, it's not a gun. It's not about guns. It's about mental health." And these shootings have nothing to do with mental health. The mental health the people who are neurodivergent or mentally ill are much more likely to be the victims of violence than the perpetrators. So.
All right, well, that's interesting. Everyone should check out that article. It's really interesting. There's an interesting study that's linked to also about rates of violence among mentally ill versus non-mentally ill. So I would check that out. So just to move on, I guess Sam and Risa, I want to get your thoughts on kind of the policy perspective of this question, which is kind of what Kelly was going at. It's every time there's a shooting, it comes up again, calls for gun control, calls for some kind of measure of gun control. And of course, the election's coming up, and it's not impossible that we get a leftist in office like Hillary or even possibly Bernie, who wouldn't be surprising if they. Although I'm not clear on Bernie's.
The leftist.
Yeah, the leftist. Yeah, I'm not clear on Bernie's record on gun control. I hear some good things, but nonetheless, I mean, gun control always seems looming. So, Sam, can you tell us a bit, maybe, like, what are your thoughts on gun control? Do you support it to any extent? Do you think that it's a decent solution to our issues, or like what would maybe your solutions be?
Well, I don't support any form of gun control because I'm an anarchist, obviously. But regarding the mental health aspect, I know when you're talking about gun control on our campus, one of the big issues was the suicide rate, and I fear that it would cause suicide to spike in our school. Also, because of like depression was a big issue. It's like rising. It's way beyond most of the campuses in the United States. And I just thought that was very like offensive to people who have depression, because not all people with depression are likely to commit suicide. I just thought I brought it up, and they told me I wasn't relevant to the subject. They were talking about depression, so it was very like, which side is it? Are you talking about depression and how guns can be used for that, or like, it was very confusing. talk about the mental health thing, I mean, I would just say it's more just hate-based. The mass killings, like the shooter in this was it South Carolina with churches or the church. I mean, that was not mental
Mm-hmm.
health. It was hate. Like, I don't get why we mix it up, and especially it shows the racist bias in the media. He's white, so he's mentally ill. But if you're like African American or black, obviously you're just a thug who's there to shoot up people. So I think we need to acknowledge that more in the media. Or yeah.
No, absolutely. It kind of reminds me of we tried to get on the show today. They're very busy people. Nathan Goodman, who's been on the show before, and Meg Arnold, who are both Young Voices advocates, and they recently published an article in the Pan Am Post. So Young Voices is kind of the PR branch of SFL, for those who don't know, and so we got these SFLers published in the Pan Am Post, and they were making this exact argument that same as you were just making, and Kelly touched on too, is gun control hurts minorities, even these measures for even mild forms of gun control. The minorities are disproportionately targeted, and it gives cops,
They're frozen again.
Yep.
Doesn't do that.
Oh, we're back.
We're back? Okay.
Sorry, it's. And they always say the state invented the internet as if it was like this great achievement. The internet always seems to strike when we need it. So what were we? I don't know where I was when I got cut off. Oh yeah, I was talking about this article in the Pan Am Post. Gun control hurts minorities. It primarily gives an excuse for law enforcement and cops. It's an excuse on top of all the other bullshit excuses that the state comes up with. You're growing certain kinds of plants in your house, or you have some sort of other thing that we don't approve of, or you're drinking like too big a thing of soda. It doesn't matter what it is. It constantly gives law enforcement more excuses to encroach on our personal spaces, and it gives them excuses to then, once they interact with us, to abuse that power and to violate our rights. It's just another example of that with gun control. It seems like some of the leftists kind of forget that when they're arguing for this strict form of gun control. So let's go back. Risa, do you want to maybe give us some of your views on gun control, some of the measures that get called for nowadays? What are your thoughts?
Sure. I mean, like you brought up earlier, anytime that there is some kind of mass shooting or gun accident, the people tend to politicize it, and that's when you always hear a lot of left-wing politicians calling for more gun control, stricter gun control. And I think that the point that they fail to realize is that gun laws don't stop criminals. Gun bans aren't going to stop criminals. They're going to find those guns however they can. They're going to look for them on the black market. It really only stops law-abiding citizens from being able to defend themselves. And I think when you put it in that light, it helps people to kind of really think about the consequences of the policies that they're advocating for. I've gone in a lot of arguments with students who are really uncomfortable with the idea of people being allowed to carry on campus. I think they see it as everyone and their mother being able to just walk onto campus with an assault rifle. And usually when I bring up more of a call for concealed carry, I think they seem to be a little bit more agreeable on that. Because with concealed carry, you have to go through very strict training. I think it's more focused on responsibility. I think when you bring up gun responsibility when it comes to gun ownership and self-defense, as opposed to it's my Second Amendment right, everyone should be allowed to own guns, they're going to be a lot more willing to listen to you and work with you instead of just writing you off as some constitutional nut.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I love your emphasis on the training and the gun safety thing. I mean, it can only go so far for you to write blog posts on the internet defending the Second Amendment, like you said. But actually, like in practice, empowering people and telling them how to use firearms for their advantage and defending themselves is it's really good direct action. So I kind of wanted to move towards. I mean, we all know, I think we're all roughly on the same page, and what kind of gun policy we support, and that's none. We don't want a gun policy, right? We don't want the state having control over the stuff. But usually things are not moving in a libertarian direction. So do you all think that's the case with guns? Do you think that in the future, 10, 15, 20 years from now, what do you think the political climate of gun rights is going to be when our people our age and a little younger are really getting older and active in the political process and more influencing public opinion? I'm curious, what do you think? I mean, are we going to be our second generation SFLers going to have more ammunition, or that was a bad analogy. That was a really more support on campus, I guess, with their pro-gun activist stuff. Anybody can jump in on this, Kelly.
I will chime in. I think that legally, laws are not headed in the best direction as far as guns. However, I think that the law can't keep up with technology, and we already have 3D printed guns. It's easy to get a 3D printer and make a gun in your own house. There's no way to legislate guns out of existence. And so I think that although these policies may be enacted, we'll find them to be highly ineffective and impossible to enforce. And it'll be like they might as well not exist, I think.
Right. So technology.
So I think technology can, subvert those kinds of legislation.
Okay. Anybody else have a specific opinion on this, or if you want to talk or the 3D printer thing, anybody can chime in.
I think it really depends on what we're going to see on college campuses. I know in Texas, starting next year, they're planning to have concealed carry on some of those schools. I'm not sure if that's Texas-wide or depending on the campus. But I think, if that goes well, if students see that, that it's not going to lead to, massive shootings every day on campus from people being able to have concealed carry, I think that's really going to help our cases, demonstrating that, hey, being able to have guns on campus, letting people defend themselves in a safe and responsible way is actually better and is going to reduce shootings. I think that's what's really going to help kind of change the direction of this policy. People can see some of these more common sense solutions that are more empowering to individuals.
Interesting. Sam, do you have any thoughts you want to offer on this? Or?
Yeah, I think actually with the media's portrayal of violence being an epidemic within the country, even though it's at the lowest it's ever been, most likely, I feel like, at least based in my life, people are wanting to get guns because they see it as a safety net, because they see all this violence on the news or like around their neighborhoods. They're more likely to feel like they need to protect themselves because obviously it's not being handled properly. With I know there's 2 videos of cop brutality yesterday that came out. I feel like more people are going to lose trust in the system and instead go towards more of a self-empowerment, self-defense kind of system. So maybe there's hope for that. I don't know.
Yeah, I hope so. I think we all hope so. I wanted to, Kelly preemptively brought this up, the 3D printer thing, but I wanted to talk about a bit about social change in this area. That's what we're all kind of in this for. So I wanted to ask, do any of y'all see the primary arena for protecting people's gun rights? Where do you see that battle happening? Do you see it in Congress in the voting booths, or do you see it in the marketplace? Innovators creating these things like 3D printers. Just wanted to ask where you kind of are placing your bets if we do get an improvement in gun rights and people actually maintaining the right to defend themselves. Where would that victory possibly come from?
I think technology and ideology. The state is a hopeless mechanism for change due to problems of public choice, public opinion, maybe. Public opinion just does not really drive the state. The state follows where public opinion goes, but the state didn't bring about civil rights. You know what I mean? People were already adopting those attitudes.
There's already a cultural trend, and
right.
The state follows.
So even if you want to achieve political change, which I don't think is worthwhile, you have to start, I think, with ideology and changing public opinion, making people aware of who these policies hurt. They hurt minorities. They hurt the mentally ill. They hurt people in poor communities where the police aren't doing their jobs. So, I think spreading that kind of awareness, this isn't just a white kid in a school issue. This goes a lot further than that, and really hurts people who need guns.
Right.
So.
What about either of you? Do either of you see that in place in politics, the marketplace, a third alternative?
Yeah, I agree with Kelly completely. I think that social change really is the mover and shaker, especially on this issue. And she brought up technology. I think, regardless of what barriers the state tries to put in the way, people are going to find ways around it, especially with new developing technology like 3D printing. And I think it really, it's going to be in changing people's perceptions of guns. That's really going to make the difference. I think if we get enough people behind these ideas and realizing that trying to ban guns isn't going to accomplish, what they think is going to accomplish, when they realize that letting people arm themselves is going to actually make things a lot safer, I think that's when we're going to see political change, is when everyone's behind it and when politicians realize that if they want to stay elected, they need to support what the people want.
Sam?
Yeah, I would agree with both of you. Technology, I mean, gun control is basically the lost cause after the 3D printer started producing guns. Plus black markets, even if we restricted gun ownership in America, they still get over the border just like drugs would. I mean, all would be a new war on drugs, or would be a war on guns basically, and it would never work. It would just, if anything, make the gun producers more profit in the long term.
Right, yeah. Yeah, just doesn't matter what you make illegal. I mean, people are going to find a way to get it, right?
Yeah.
I was going to say there's a rhetorical technique I use in Facebook debates about this, which is to say, oh yes, making something illegal makes it go away. Rolls joint.
We don't advocate that.
Not that, yeah, well, unless you live in Colorado where it's legal, right?
We still don't advocate it. On the record. All right, I think that probably means the show should almost end soon. I want to talk a little bit more. Just another mention of our Not Just a Gun activism grants. I mean, this is a really great opportunity for anyone in school. You don't have to be involved with SFL to take advantage of this. You just have to go to studentsforliberty.org / not just a gun -donate /. Or you can probably just Google SFL Not Just a Gun, and that would work. And it's basically just a few $100. I mean, you fill out a little application, and you do an event on your campus, and it's a win-win. You get to promote a really positive people's lives, and also, do it for free.
This page is to support it, though.
The
URL you gave is to donate. So if anyone's watching this, that is has a lot of money sitting around and wants to help contribute to students doing this activism on campus, that would be the link they go to. It is Not Just a Gun -donate.
Yeah, that's why Kelly's here. This is
without the donate. It's just Students for Liberty.
No, that's the blog post. Just Google SFL Not Just a Gun, and I'm sure you'll find it. If you're really committed to this, I think you'll be able to find it on the internet. If you're not going to be able to find it, you're probably not fit out. Just to wrap up, just always with SFL, I ask everybody kind of what they're doing and what they'll be up to on campus in their own activism. And then, so Kelly, maybe what are you up to lately? What can we see from you in the future?
Right now I'm an intern at the Center for Stateless Society, hoping to become a fellow once I'm done with my internship. The first part of my internship consists of answering the frequently asked questions on the website. So right now I'm working on one which is what ethical theory do market anarchists follow? So that's an interesting question. Cool. And then I will continue to write op-eds and stuff there.
Awesome. So, yeah, you can find Kelly's work at divorcess.org.
Yeah.
All right, Risa, what are you going to be up to in the future?
Well, so for right now, we're focusing on Halloween on our campus. So last night we actually did the Walking Dead zombie event where we had our students dress up as zombies, representing different federal programs and the amount of money that they raised, or they spend on their programs. So we've been doing a lot of Halloween events. We're also going to be traveling to a couple of regional conferences coming up in the next couple of weeks. We'll be going to the Denver Regional Conference on November 7th and the Oklahoma Anarchist-themed conference on November 14th. So those are all really great opportunities. Make sure you check out Students for Liberty's events page to find any more regional conferences near you if you guys want to attend. But that's what we're going to be doing, and then hopefully doing some other cool events, including the Strong Women Fight Back events coming up in November.
Awesome, that's very cool. Olive apparently did not like your ideas. She was coughing and making a lot of noise. That's really cool. I wish you the best of luck with your upcoming events on your campus. Sounds like a lot of fun. Sam, what are you going to be up to?
So we're basically having in 2 weeks, we're having a film on occupational licensing regarding hair braiding. I think it's called Locked Out. It's about Melanie Armstrong. So we're going to show that on campus. It's our first ever like actual big event. We're going to try and get a panel of like professors about like the hazards of government policy on like race issues and how occupational licensing hurts certain communities. And then we're having a fundraiser for Liberty in North Korea to raise some money to help out North Korean refugees stuck in China. So yeah.
That's awesome. That sounds really great. I wish you the best of luck.
Cory, you should talk about what you're doing. With the VRGs.
That's really not the format, Kelly. So I guess since you asked, the Oklahoma Regional Conference that Marisa mentioned, which I will see her at. I will be speaking at that conference on a panel about prison abolitionism with Nathan Goodman, who you all know and love, and also a woman whose name I unfortunately cannot remember right now. But she developed a app that lets users of websites like OkCupid interesting. So basically, it's another great example of the market beating the state. Users of like websites like OkCupid and other dating websites, it's basically this anonymous Yelp format kind of thing where you can submit kind of ratings or responses about people. And it lets you track people who use those websites that are abusive or have people have had bad experiences with or have suffered maybe like sexual abuse from or something. It's just kind of a reputation mechanism that totally just market provided that people can use to protect themselves. So I'll be speaking at the Oklahoma conference, and that'll be a lot of fun. If you're interested in anarchism or prison abolitionism or anything, that'll be great on November 14th at the University of Oklahoma. So I guess that's. Oh yeah, I should promote other SFL stuff. That's a good idea. SFL is doing virtual reading groups as always. So this fall, coming up very soon, we have a reading group with Dr. Roderick Long on the moral foundations of libertarianism, which would be really fun. And if you're interested in that, just go to SFL's website and then go under. I forget which tab it is. I guess you can just Google Students for Liberty virtual reading groups.
Like resources.
Yeah, I think it's under the resources tab.
Or programs.
I should know this. The other reading group that we're doing is about libertarianism and feminism, with Rachel Davison leading it. So that should be a lot of fun if you're interested in those two concepts and how they interact and relate in their history. That's going to be a really interesting virtual reading group. And then also, so finally, join us next week. SFL Live is going to be on next week. Tuesday at 8, we're going to be having one of our regional conference directors interviewing one of the speakers for the regional conference. I don't know if it was confirmed who yet, but we always have someone doing that. And then next week, a week from tonight, we have SFL Live at the same time, and we're going to be interviewing Peter Jaworski, who is a professor, and we're going to be talking about SFL's Learn Liberty, or Liberty 101 course, where we partner with Learn Liberty, kind of an online course to learn about the basics of liberty. So join us next week at 9 to learn about that kind of program. So that's about it for tonight. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Kelly, Sam, Marisa. Thanks to our viewers. Check out those activism grants if you can. And thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye, everyone.